Hello and welcome to Getting to Know You. I'm your host, Robert Jaquay. On today's program, we're going to be talking about the Colonie Town Band. And we're going to be talking with Jane Oppenlander and Joe Trupia, who are co-conductors, and Bob Suss, who is a trombonist and the historian for the band. So let's go meet them. So Jane and Bob, I want to thank you very much for agreeing to be on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
We're happy to
thank
be
you
here.
very much.
Now, generally what I do for our viewers is I have my guests give a bit of their background. So Jane, I'm going to start with you.
I started playing the clarinet when I was in 5th grade, and I haven't stopped. I played throughout school, in school bands, school ensembles, and in town bands when I was starting in college. And when I moved into this area, I continued to play and started out here with the Colonie Town Band.
Okay, very good. Now, do you have just one question, do you have a degree in music at all?
I do. I have a degree in music from the University of Vermont.
Okay, great. All right.
But my day job is as a mathematician.
There you go. Well, math and music go together.
That's right.
I knew that. I learned that a while ago. I'm no mathematician, though, so I don't know why my music is so good. Bob.
Well, I have been playing since 5th grade when I started. My training was in high school. I come from a somewhat musical family. My mother's father and brother both played trombone, as do I. And my great-grandfather was also in a community band playing cornet. So it goes back several generations. I played in college a little bit. The period afterwards, not so much. And then I found that the Colonie Town Band was active, and I joined then, and I've been there ever since.
Yeah, I guess if you don't make it a career, when you study an instrument, you don't make it a career, then there comes a point when you're doing something like you're doing, mathematician, and yet you still have your instrument, or it's a part of you. I think it becomes a part of you and a necessary thing to do. So
yeah, I would think so. It's a hobby that gets out of hand sometimes.
But it's a great hobby. It's a great hobby to have because there's lots of aspects to it. You can maintain your skills as a musician, nice opportunity to give back to the community, socialize with fellow musicians, and it's really great.
I think it's really neat. I did string instruments, and I was in a quartet for a while, and I know it's nothing like it. Nothing like making music. Well, let's talk about the Colonie Town Band. And the Colonie Town Band has been around for over 40 years.
Yes.
And Bob, I guess you've been designated unofficially or officially as a historian.
Well, for today anyway.
Okay.
The band was founded in 1964 by Malcolm Papin, who was a graduate of South Colony High School, Colony Central. And he was a cornet player from there, I guess a very good one. After founding us, he conducted for a while, but then moved to California, where he did composing and arranging out there at least part of his time, and I believe wrote some of the music that they used in the professional football games, so he kind of made the big time. But then after that, there were a couple of directors of the band, and then Frank Waddington took it over in 1974 and led us for 31 years. Until 2005, I believe it was, and the band grew under him, and then he retired, but he still plays baritone with the band, and but he gave the reins over to Jane and Joe. Now, the idea of a town band has a lot more history than 40 years just in Colonie. I mean, town bands are an institution in this country for a long time, right? Oh, yes. Well, I mentioned my great-grandfather being in one, and this is what they call the band era, really, from about the end of the Civil War till around 1935, when a lot of communities, businesses had their own bands. Then they would be kind of competitive in the sense that they'd go to things and want to prove that their band was better than somebody else's band. But
dueling bands,
sort of, nothing nasty or anything, but just an informal, fun thing.
But this predates television and other forms of entertainment that we have now. So live music was a very common form of entertainment. You made your own music.
I grew up in a small town west of here, Hamilton, New York, and we have a village green. And I remember Thursday nights during the summer were band concert nights, and everybody gathered there, and the kids ran around and got into funny business, but the music was playing all the while. It was just something to do, and it was fun, and it gathered people together.
Yes. What I mentioned, the band era, it really covers mostly the bands of Patrick Gilmore, John Philip Sousa, and Odin Franco Goldman. And of course, with those great bands like that inspired the individual bands to emulate them. And then as television, well, mostly radio really, and the theater, as they grew, the emphasis kind of switched from community bands to school bands.
Okay. Okay, and I know that school bands can be very big too.
Oh yeah, and very good.
There are pageants and there are contests and all that stuff for school bands. And now your players come to you from a variety of places, all amateurs, right?
Right.
No audition necessary. You
No
just have
audition
a
is
desire
required.
to play.
Correct.
Okay, and it really runs the age gamut, doesn't it?
We have some players in middle school, and we have everything in between up to people in their mid-80s.
Yeah.
What's your optimum size for the band? I mean, how many people are you dealing with right now?
We currently play with about 50 people at any given concert. We have about 70 on the rolls, but between having to be away and illness and other conflicts, a concert runs about 50 players now. We can play with probably as small a group as 25 or 30.
Yeah,
and you can,
depending on which people are there.
Right, but you could grow from there. So that's roughly the size. But 40, 50 is a good size. Good size.
Yeah.
And now you're one of the directors.
Right.
And basically, a director is a conductor, right?
Right.
And so I guess what's it like to be a conductor or a director?
It's great. You really act as a coordinator because you have all these individual musicians, and you need to give the overall direction for the piece, the interpretation for the pieces you're going to do, tempo, dynamics, articulation, all kinds of technical details to create your vision of the piece as you interpret it from that composer. So you really have a big coordinating function to coordinate all the various instruments and parts that are playing. In addition to that, there's a fair number of administrative duties that come along with that, choosing music, that sort of thing, ordering music, arranging concerts. But we have a great set of volunteers that support us in many ways and make it possible for us to do our job.
Would you call it an informal organization? I mean, you have people who are dedicated. You have aspects of it. You have, I believe, you have a librarian. You're a director. You have a variety of things to do. Volunteers, people who want to do this. But are you structured in a way? Is there need to be a discipline, or is it just sort of like fall into place?
We don't have a formal structure as some bands and other organizations do with bylaws and officers. We really have a group of volunteers that do many things. We have a wonderful website that one of our volunteers designs and maintains. Bob is our announcer and does a great job at researching the pieces, which really educates the band and our audiences. It's a nice thing to have in our concerts. People to do scheduling, setup, manage the library, hospitality. Have I missed anything? Because
you mentioned Paul and the hours he spends as a librarian.
Right, and it's really we need all those people doing those jobs to make the group succeed. And
so
it does.
What do you do? Do you I mean, how do you build a program? Do you do it from listening to other bands or having ideas, that just come to you, or is it how does it happen?
There's a lot of ways. I think a lot of influences on how you structure a program. You have to think about the audience you're going to play to. You have to think about the venue that you're going to play at. You need to think about the players themselves. You need to think about a balanced program, balanced in terms of the different kinds of music you play, different degrees of difficulty for the players, so we don't tire them out during the concert. Things will appeal to all age groups, and we try to do a little something that stretches our band musically. And we try to do things that stretch our audience's ears musically. Okay. But we try to have something for everybody so that the children can enjoy a piece from a Disney movie, and the senior citizens can enjoy pieces from the 1920s or the big band era.
Do you do theme nights or not really? You just sort of mix it up?
We do not do theme nights in this group. We pretty much mix it up. We often look at the concerts programs of other groups and get ideas from that. You may hear a piece on the radio that you like or something. We often try to program things that are some way relevant to current events. For example, this year is the 100th anniversary of the birth of Leroy Anderson, who was a well-known American composer of things like Sleigh Ride. It's probably his best-known work. And so we try to feature music of him this summer. There may be other things happening in the area that we try to highlight and at least have one or two pieces that are current with other events going on.
Okay, and you know, we talked about how you're structured, but you also have some affiliation with the town of Colonie. The Parks and Recreation Department is, would you call them a sponsor?
Yes, we are sponsored by the Department of Parks and Recreation, and they give us a lot of support with equipment and transportation and many things.
You get some funding as well.
We get some funding, and that goes towards buying new music and equipment that we need.
And that relationship has been that way for
as long as I can remember.
As long as I know, yeah.
We've talked before, and you have partnerships. I mean, you work with other groups, right? And
yes.
One of them you wanted to talk about?
Right. Coming up in June, late in June on the 30th, we are going to do a program with the Beltrone Singers. It's a group of about 25 singers that are affiliated with the Beltrone Living Center, and we're going to do 2 or 3 pieces on our June 30th program, which is at their Summer Fest. So we're going to sing some George M. Cohan and some music from the 20s with them.
Just got to ask. I mean, do they rehearse and then you rehearse, and all of a sudden you come together, or do you do enough rehearsal to get sort of pull the program together?
Sure. We rehearse separately, and we often will make a tape or a disc, and then the directors of the Beltrone Singers will take that and they'll rehearse to that tape. We had a dress rehearsal with them already in the month of May, so we had a chance to work through it together with them.
Okay, fantastic. And you also work with the Maplewood School.
Right, we've had a partnership for several years with the Maplewood School in Waterville, and 2 years ago we sang did a holiday concert with their chorus, and we had how many students?
I don't know how many. A lot.
A lot. We had a lot of students, so we did a number of pieces with them, and that was a fantastic experience. Their music teacher is one of our trumpet players. And that's been a great experience, I think, for the kids and for our players. We also sent our saxophone quartet over to Maplewood, and we did an assembly there for an hour on the history and the sound of the saxophone. And the quartet played a number of pieces, and that too was a great experience. And the kids asked lots of questions, and we had to shut them off after about an hour and 15 minutes. And they were good questions. They had very good questions about saxophones and music in general.
Interesting. Now, I know that we try not to do anything date specific, but this has already happened. You had a concert last night. You had at the Prine House, I believe, right?
Right.
And now, was that part of the Concert in the Barn series, or was it just a separate night for you?
It was
And it was not part of their concert in the Barn series. Right. This was a free concert, as all of ours are.
Just to kind of get people all revved up, it's...
Well, yeah, we usually play there once a year. Well, twice, really, because we usually do the old-fashioned Sunday in the fall.
That's right.
And we honored one of our longtime members, Jack Hotchkiss, who's a trombone player with us and an expert in the big band era, and he's done lectures in the area and is a real scholar of the big band era.
So you kind of made it extra special.
Yes, we did.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I know you also do concerts on the plaza at the library.
Yes, we do.
In a variety of venues around here. Do you stay pretty much in town?
Pretty much we stay in the town of Colonie, although we do go other places in the Capital District. We have played at the Cohoes Music Hall a number of times, Cohoes Senior Center. We've played at Kingsway community over in Schenectady, so we do venture outside of the town of Colonie.
Okay, and we also talked about buglers a bit, so is there...
We have some of our members who play at the Saratoga National Cemetery as a part of the Honor Guard, and they're buglers there, which I think is a real great service they do for the community.
So you have all these breakout groups. Now, you apart from the town band itself,
right?
You have I'm going to call it a brass choir, but what?
It's exactly what it is.
Okay, that's what it is.
Let's
talk about that.
Right. That's a group of about 15 to 20 players that play just brass instruments. And we started in 1995, is that the right date?
Yes.
For the town of Colonie's centennial, when they had an interfaith service of Thanksgiving that was organized as a part of their centennial events, and they asked for a brass choir, and the logical place to go was the town band, where there are a lot of brass players. So we played several pieces on our own there, and then accompanied the choir for other pieces. And when we finished that, the group said, boy, we ought to keep playing. So we continued on, and the town graciously started to fund that group, and we play about 4 concerts a year. We rehearse twice a month. The same membership criteria. Anyone can come, well, provided you play a brass instrument.
Yeah.
But no auditions, and we meet twice a month, and again play concerts around the community.
Now, this is not a question that I've prepped you for, but it's a curious one, and either of you can answer. What is it about the sound of a band? I mean, what is it that appeals to people? Can you give any comment to that? I mean, there's orchestra sounds. I mean, you talked about the big band, but what is it about? And you talk about brass. I mean, some people can listen to brass and want to run the other way. But there's a lot of brass ensemble and sound. It's been around for a long time. I'm just wondering what the appeal is. I mean, I guess it's just if you like it, right?
I think it goes with the heritage of this country in many ways. Many of the festive occasions that we have are in our communities are associated with band music. You think about the high school parade. You think about the 4th of July parade, the Flag Day parade. You think about school bands playing at football games and other sporting activities. I think we have a long heritage of associating band music with some very festive occasions, and often they're national celebrations.
I was thinking, you mentioned the word parade, and I'm saying I guess portability of the instrument also is perhaps a factor. Not that you can't carry around a bass viol, but I'm sure a trumpet or a trombone might be a bit easier.
Yes. I was thinking the brass instruments go back a long way, too, in one form or another. And they had a sound that would fill a cathedral back in the Middle Ages. And my understanding is that one of the things they tried to do when they invented the organ was to duplicate the sound of the brass choir. So we're talking about a lot of years here of history behind it.
Really?
And these things have roots way back as when music and drumming, trumpets, served as a form of communication. During wartime, on the battlefield, religious ceremony and celebration, just way back, people signaling, communicating via drum sounds or the sounds of horns.
Yeah, certainly makes sense. Now, I want to talk to you about your role as narrator and sort of, are you like the master of ceremonies? Or?
Essentially, that's what we do. I try to find something about the pieces that we're playing that I can convey to the audience, and let them know that music doesn't come from nowhere. I mean, there's some reason something is written. If I can't find anything about the piece itself, I'll talk about the composer. So there's usually something of interest that I can come up with to, well, I think of myself as an entertainer first, but if the audience learns something, that's great.
So you do it from your seat where you're playing, or do you come
No,
up
I usually get up. We have a sound system.
So you really put it in context maybe of what they're going to be hearing, historical context?
Yeah. I do it more like I'm coming out and just talking to the audience, because we play on the same level. When I do that for some other bands and are on a stage, I do it a little more formally.
I notice a lot more orchestra conductors are doing that as well. Obviously the pieces we all know, people don't need anything, but if it's something that's a bit different or it's a contemporary piece or whatever have you, oftentimes the conductor will actually take the moment to turn around and talk to the audience and sort of set the stage.
Yes.
And I think the more you know, the better it is for you.
Yes.
I mean, not that you can't just enjoy the pure music happening, but...
well, that's the way I feel, that it serves a function, and people seem to enjoy it, so I keep doing it.
It also serves for us to make better music. I think when the players in the band have an understanding of the composer, of the times in which the music was written, of the musical structure of the piece, I think we interpret the piece better and we play it better.
And it also gives a little break between pieces.
It's true.
Yeah, a little break.
Right.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I know that you have a scholarship that's associated with the town band. So can you talk about that?
Sure. we have a scholarship that's named in honor of Frank Mooney, who was our vocalist for many years. He was a teacher in the Colonie School District, an English teacher, and we award annually to a student from Colonie Central High School who excels in English and in vocal music in his honor.
Interesting combination. And do they have to do something special, or is it picked by the music director or whatever?
It's picked by the music.
Somebody's chosen
Yes.
for you?
Yes.
Great. And the kids are aware of that? I mean, it's something that you go and introduce it and say this is a chance for you, or is it just something, a well-known fact?
I think through the music department,
Yeah.
they know about it. And one of our members, who is a trustee for the scholarship, goes and presents the scholarship each year at the awards night.
Okay.
And I think an important aspect of this is, what does the band need most? And through the generosity of Frank's friends, we've been able to perpetuate helping college students going to college, and hopefully years down the road they'll continue to do their music, and if we can help them further education, we're happy to do that.
Be curious to know if some young person who made you talk about middle school, played in the band now, might come back to the band 20 years from now.
So many young people who are fine musicians in high school never pick up their instruments again after they leave. I mean, it's a very, very high percentage, like
Right.
90%. And we'd like to kind of reverse that. And what we try to say is, we know that life gets busy. You know, you have college, you start raising a family, starting a career. But if you have your own instrument, don't sell it. Keep it, because you're much more apt to come back to it if you have an instrument. And when you do, we'll be waiting for them.
We also have family members together in the group.
Really?
Yes, we have several husbands and wives, parents and children. At one time, I think we had three generations at one time.
I believe we played Bueller's Holiday, the trio of a grandfather,
Wow.
son, and
wonderful.
So that's another great aspect of it. It's something the family members can do together throughout their lives. And I gotta believe it's great for a grandparent to get to play with his grandson or grandchild. It was great.
Now, we put the website up, and we're going to be doing it various
Right.
times for the thing, so we'll just make sure that people can connect to you through the website. And is there any personal contact? I mean, should they call Parks and Recreation? We can put that number up as well if there's any kind of curiosity that people don't remember to go to the website, but
Sure.
maybe remember.
Sure. Call Parks and Recreation, and they can get in contact with us, and we'll get right back to to
If
answer the
they say
inquiry.
we don't know, we're in trouble.
That's right.
that's cool.
Well, we want to talk to Joe Trupia, and so I'm going to thank Bob for being on this segment of the show.
Okay.
And we'll transition magically and bring Joe on. So thanks again, Bob, for being here.
It's my pleasure. Glad I could do it.
Joe, thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for joining us for this segment. And just like I asked Jane and Bob, I'd like to ask you to give our viewers a bit of your background and how you came to the Colonie Town Band.
Well, first I'd like to say it's a pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to doing this. As far as how I happened to be here, they had a call for people to audition for the job of conducting the town band, and I was one of the ones that answered the call and eventually was selected. But how I got to that point was that way back in the 1940s, when I was still in school, I had already played clarinet and saxophone for quite a while, and when most of the musicians were in the war, they were hiring high school students to play in the nightclubs, and so I had a job every Friday and Saturday night playing in the nightclubs during 44, 45, 46, and 47. So I was always into music.
Okay.
Ended up in the Marine Corps and played in the Marine Corps band at San Diego. Went on to college in music and said, this is getting long-winded. Nevertheless, eventually I graduated and got a master's degree from Syracuse University and taught in the schools, at first in Cherry Valley and then in Fulton, New York for 10 years, prior to being offered a position with the State Education Department in the Music Bureau, as an associate in music, and over time became the director of the Division of Humanities and Arts there.
My goodness.
And during that time, I was so busy traveling around and doing all the things for the state, I wasn't able to play. So for about a 30-year period there, I had very limited playing. I had done a lot prior to that. But then in about 1997, 98, I've lost track, I was asked to about auditioning for a job with the orchestra. And at that time, they asked me to bring along my clarinet at the time of the audition. When I got there, they had already hired someone. And I sat down in there because I had no way to go anywhere. I had been driven there. So I sat down in the orchestra thinking that this is going to be fun. And it was. And that got me going again, and eventually here I am.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love the clarinet theme here. We're going to make
Yes,
some of
that's
this
right.
clarinet theme here. Isn't it wonderful, though, when you have music introduced into your life, and I think this is true for a lot of young people, that when music is introduced into your life and you can participate with it, it stays with you for the rest of your life in one way or another. You know, I used to play, but now I'm more of a consumer. But you kept up your instruments and you know, continue to play because it gives you tremendous pleasure, doesn't it?
Very much so.
It's
Yes.
very, very satisfying, and it's a part of you. And I think that it's wonderful. Now, when you talk about conducting, okay, how does a conductor, you know, what's a conductor's main job?
Well, the primary thing is to capture the spirit and the intent of the composer for that particular piece of music, and to try to get the band, orchestra, whomever or whatever you're conducting, to express that in a way that the audience will also pick up on it and understand it and feel it.
But isn't it true, Jane, that also a fundamental responsibility or role for the conductor is to keep the beat?
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes.
You know?
Well,
You have to keep that group of people together. You have to coordinate the playing of the music, and that includes all sorts of things besides the beat. It includes the dynamics, how loud or soft we play, the pitch, the interpretation of the music. So there's many aspects of the music that you need to coordinate from the conductor's stand.
So as a conductor, then, you're the interpreter. You're the one that has this sort of vision about the way the piece should sound. And so that's what you're trying to impart and get your players to achieve, right?
Correct.
Cool.
and just as an aside on that same point, normally in most pieces there's a climactic point, at which point usually the dynamics are getting quite louder at that point. Something intrinsic to the music is leading you to that point, and you want to make sure that that happens. And that interpretation, it can only be singular. That's why a conductor eventually becomes a dictator.
Okay.
You see, because you can't allow people to interpret it separately.
But as musicians also, musicians really hopefully respect the conductor, at least knowing that that conductor is the person who is basically leading them. And they look to the conductor for the beat, for the nuances of playing. And so there's a tremendous give and take between player and conductor, isn't there?
Very
I mean, when you're
definitely.
conducting a concert, are you, because there's a lot of eye contact too. You got to watch the conductor in order to be able to know what the devil's coming next. But is there something that you're getting from your players as well, or am I just going too far with this?
Well, definitely. I mean, hopefully they're feeling that movement toward this climactic point as well as you are, and you're trying to keep them from getting there too soon.
Hold your horses, right?
Yeah, right. You're trying to keep them down, but still keeping that spirit, that flow going. I can't help it.
Yeah, you're right. Your hands are moving now. I know I'm a handsy guy too, so go ahead.
And so that, and the thing is that the conductor, being human, is going to feel it differently almost every time.
Right.
So they must watch, because you might go a little faster this time, a little slower. Sometimes even the conductor, myself included, will get a little excited and end up making the next section a little faster than he or she intended, and pushing the limit on what the players can do.
The knowing nod over here.
Right.
But that's important. That's a very
Yeah.
important aspect of it.
That's right.
Is you have to know your players and what their capabilities are, and you really can't push them beyond their limits, because then we won't make music
That's right.
that way. So
Yeah.
you have to know your players. On top of that, there's the whole problem of live performance and what the strange things that could happen. And we could probably talk
I was going to ask
Oh,
you,
yeah.
are there
all
any strange
day
stories to tell us?
about the crazy things that have happened to us when we've been playing either as players or conductors. Last night we played, and there was a windy night,
Right.
and while Joe was conducting, I chased after a piece of
Yeah.
music that got away from him.
Yeah, the
And we didn't
music
want
blew
it
off the
to end up
stage.
in the pond. So,
Right.
that's another thing you have to take into consideration. So we often on windy nights will consider the number of pages the players have and page turns to make, and put that piece on the program or not, so we make it easy for them to deal with the conditions under which we're playing.
Okay.
Another aspect is it's an all-volunteer organization. People take vacations and leave, and they're not all going to be there on every given Monday night.
But you know, you have a schedule. You know that ahead of time, don't you? I mean, you're just not.
Well,
all of a sudden,
we ask
"Where
them
is
to
Joe
sign
tonight?"
a calendar letting us know
Okay.
when they're not going to be there. But it does affect the music if that person has several solos.
Well, I was going to ask about solo work. I was going to ask
Yes.
about solo work. So
Yeah.
you do have individuals who in the course of a piece do a solo.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
because,
Many of
well, the
them.
music would call for that.
Okay.
And if that person's not going to be there, somehow you have to cover that solo. Either that or not do that piece that night.
You ever played the clarinet while you're conducting?
I never have, no.
I haven't either. We also have some instruments where we only have one of those instruments. For example, bass clarinet.
Okay.
We only have one clarinet,
One bass
one bass clarinet, and so you have to accommodate for. We have only one baritone saxophone.
So it's really the show must go on, so you do it the best you can. But
Right.
I'm sensing that the group is pretty devoted to the whole process, and to the best of their ability, they're going to be there for the concerts.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
What about rehearsals? I mean, it's all volunteer. I mean, people are either employed or not, or in school, and so how do you manage a rehearsal schedule in order to get a concert prepared?
We rehearse every Monday evening.
Okay.
From 7 o'clock to 9:15 in the town hall, and that's where our library is housed, and our equipment is there as well, and so it's a regular every Monday night, and it's a part of the fabric of the players'
Yes.
lives. That Monday night is band night.
Okay, Monday night's band night, so it's not a concert night.
Not
Well,
always.
Not always. Okay, so
I was going to say that the rehearsing time for the summer concerts really takes place from September through, I guess, April to May, because then once we get into June and July and into August, you're playing concerts every night, so you have to have at least 20, 25 numbers that you've worked up, so that you don't play exactly the same concert week after week after week, which would be just demoralizing for everybody.
right.
So it's during that time period that all the rehearsing takes place and all the fine tuning and everything, getting ready for the big season, which is during the summer.
Okay. And now, do players actually, I mean, you have a librarian, I mean, do you keep your music? Do players get the music distributed to them, and so they become the custodians of the music while or do you collect it? And, I mean, they have to practice otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
We typically collect the music. Our librarian collects it, but they can take the folders home to practice. And many do take
Yes.
their folders home and practice over the course of the week, but we have one rule. The folder has to be back for rehearsal, whether you are or not, because we have people that share folders, and we
Okay.
need to have all the music back. And if you play one part, and we need to have someone else cover that part, then we need to have your music there.
Okay. I'm going to break for a second because I'd like to give the viewers, other than encourage them to come to your concerts, and because there's nothing like live music, and you can find the schedule by going on the website. But I'd like to get people on your website. You do have a clip, about a 4-minute clip or thereabouts of you playing. Okay. So let's take a pause right now and show that and listen to that, and then we'll come back in a minute. Okay.
Sure.
That'll be fine.
Okay, that's just a sampler, and you know, as I say, there's nothing like going to a live concert, and there are a variety of venues around the town, and so we hope you get some more attendance as a result of this as well. I mentioned that we talked with Bob about the history and the history of town bands, but there's actually an organization, I think nationally or is it internationally, where you actually communicate with a larger group. It's an association of
concert bands.
Of concert bands.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they? I mean, I saw on their webpage. I went to their webpage. They do have a yearly conference. Mm-hmm. Does someone go to that? Do either of you go to that?
I have been to a few. I don't go every year.
Okay.
And I know Bob Suss, who spoke with you earlier, has also, he goes virtually every year and brings back all the information to us about what happened. And
just
that
keep you up
thing.
fresh and able to mix with other groups as well.
That's right.
That's interesting.
An important thing that they bring back are concert programs from the bands that play there and other bands, and it's always useful to us as we program to see what choices other conductors make and how they put a program of music together.
Now, I noticed something on your web page which was a little nifty, and it really works too. You have a members-only part. You issue a new. She smiles. You issue a newsletter, and if you're not a member, you can't get there because it's password protected. But what do you impart in the newsletter? Just since I couldn't look at it.
Oh, no, just in terms of when and where, what's the clothing or the attire.
Okay, so it's informational to your group.
Oh, sure, exactly.
Okay.
And it's password protected because people's names and addresses and phone numbers and emails are in there. We also have as a part of that newsletter, and again, Bob Suss is the person that puts that together for us. There's a number of articles on all kinds of pertinent musical topics that serve as an education vehicle for us. And he also has a nice listing of other events in this general area that would be of interest to the group.
Okay, so members meaning that you are members of the band itself. You're
Correct.
not a member who pays you $5, $6
Correct.
a year.
It's members of the band.
Okay. Now there's also another component. You mentioned it earlier, and that's the brass choir.
Correct.
Okay, and obviously, what differentiates the brass choir from the town band?
It's much younger. It's what differentiates the brass choir. We actually started that group at the request of the organizers of the Town of Colonie's Centennial, which was, I believe, was that 1999?
I think
I
it
should
must
know
be.
too. Shame on me.
I don't
somehow
know.
Does 2000 whatever?
Might be
Well,
2000.
Okay,
We
the
could-
Centennial.
The Centennial, right. And one of the activities was an interfaith service of Thanksgiving with a community chorus, and they had wanted to have a brass choir play with them, and they knew the place to go to get brass would be from the town band. So we formed a group from the town band, and we played at that service. And at the completion of that, the group said, boy, it would be nice if we could keep doing this. And we keep doing this and have done that for, I think it's been about 11 years now. We meet. That group is also has open membership to brass players and meets twice a month, and we play about 4 or 5 concerts a year at various venues around the town. Another interesting thing we did during the town centennial is we had a massed band concert called Pops Goes the Centennial. And we had the town band play, and both high school bands played. So it was an enormous band, and we did an afternoon of band music. And each of the conductors from the town band and the high schools got to conduct at least one piece. It was wonderful.
Now, other than obviously brass versus the other types of instruments that are in the band, it's a smaller group, right? The brass choir?
About 15 to 20 pieces.
Okay. And
But you'll find information about the brass choir as well on our website. We also have a couple of other small groups from within the band that self-organize. We have a saxophone quartet who will play as a part of the band concerts, and also they play occasionally on their own.
Okay.
And we also have a horn quartet that they haven't performed publicly yet, but they tell us they're ready. So we'll be asking them to be in one of the concerts coming up.
A horn quartet?
Yeah, French horns.
Okay, so are there specific pieces of music that are composed for this kind of combination?
Yes, there are. I don't know, I haven't heard what they're playing, but many times they're transcriptions of other pieces that have been rewritten for that combination of instruments. But yes, there are specific pieces that are written for a horn quartet.
Now, are there... Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
No, just as there are for the saxophone quartet and brass quartets and whatever.
Gee, I never knew that before. Is there anyone in the group that's a composer that's tried their hand at composing for the town band, or not really?
Well, we haven't had a composer, but we have arrangers.
Okay.
And one of them is Bob Suss.
Yeah, Bob Suss. What doesn't he do?
Yes, and Warren Kennedy
Right.
has arranged things for the brass ensemble as well.
So some things were just not composed for a band sound or whatever have you, and so this is a way for you to make it
Exactly.
a transcription or.
Right.
How nice! How nice. Well, we're getting to the end of the program, and I have certainly learned more about the town band than I knew before, and I hope our viewers have too. I'm sure they have. And we want to encourage them one more time to go to the website, which we'll put up there. And there is a phone number that people can call if they want more information, and that's Parks and Recs Department's
Correct.
number, right? And it's 783-2760, and we'll put that number up there as well. Now, before we end the program, is there anything you want to add, or did we miss anything that you'd like to include here?
I can't, at the moment, I can't think of anything. I think we've covered virtually everything
Okay.
that we set out to do.
Okay. And as I say, you know, the bit that we showed before is just a teaser, and nothing like a live concert. I wish you great success in your summer season and future, and I want to thank you once again for being on the show today.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We've enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it very much.
And thank you for joining me on Getting to Know You. I hope you enjoyed today's show and will join us again in the future. Until then, have a good one.